Let's take a cruise through the back nine. You saw the front nine earlier on Live from the U.S. Open. We're going to do our tour of the back nine. And this is pretty cool, Noda. Let's let it rip.
Oh, this whole venue is great. And again, we're going to come on to this hole, 617 yards, par 5, a scoring opportunity for players that are sort of able to navigate some of the challenges here. You see it kind of fairway squeezes in just a little bit. When balls do roll into those natural rugged areas that you see surrounding all of these fairways, it's a 50-50 chance on whether they're going to be able to advance it toward the green complex. And once you get to these green complexes, that's sort of when the fun begins. And we're going to see a lot of different shots, a lot of different clubs played around these greens, Rolf.
Yeah, we really are. I do love that 10th hole as a par 5, but I have a really special place in my heart for number 11. This is one of my favorite holes in all on this number 2 course here. It is a fairway that is extremely penal if you miss it. Look at how narrow it gets down in there. Everything is going to be dependent if they miss this fairway on the lies. But it was the 3rd most penalized fairway back in 2014. No surprise there. And the scrambling rate here is just off the charts. It was the 2nd hardest green to scramble around. So at 478 yards, it is a big par 4.
Well, not getting any favors from the golf course, going from that long hole to this long par 4 at 486. And you talked about the 11th being the 3rd most penalizing fairway on the golf course. This was the 2nd most penal fairway to miss for players. Players missing this fairway played this hole at nearly a half a shot over par. So although the driving areas are very generous in contrast to standard U.S. Open setup, if you do miss the fairway on a number of these holes, you are going to pay the price.
Well, dare I say that the 13th can be a birdie hole, Nota? I'm going to say it. You know, it's not likely. It's a hole that is not long. It's you're going to be able to drive the ball pretty close to that green. It's going to be a short iron into that green, and I think if there is a respite on the backside and when the players want to attack, it'll be this 13th hole right here. The real difficulty starts just short of the green there. Look at how broad that area is coming down. It's narrow, but it is a long way down that hill to the fairway. So if you put too much spin on a hole location like the front hole location, you can spin the ball 20, 30, 40 yards back down that fairway. Both sides of the green, the front and the back, are extremely difficult, and you have to be careful. So if the pin is in the back, do not miss long, no matter what. But having said that, 13 should be looked at as a birdie hole.
Yeah, and a little reprieve there for the guys at the 13th, and then time to put the hard hat back on and get back to work here at the 472-yard par 4 14th hole. Just want to avoid, you can see those are actually bunkers. They sort of look sort of like natural areas down that right side. You see one there. We go over through the left. Trying to keep your ball out of those bunkers up the right-hand side will give you a chance, if you're hitting from the fairway, to find another one of these difficult greens that you can see just in a different coloration there at this green complex. The grain is growing in a variety of different ways, usually with the slope and where the water is draining off, which tells you if the ball does creep on to the top of those ridges, it will run off the side of the green, either into the bunker, sometimes into the wiregrass, or sometimes into a very difficult uphill lie, chipping into the grain.
Well, 15 is my underdog hole here at Pinehurst. There's the tee. It's just right behind the 14th. I call it an underdog hole because it doesn't get the love that so many of the other holes have. The green just kind of sits there, sort of in the middle of nowhere, but it is a diabolical green. It's a perfect Donald Ross kind of push-up, upside-down coffee cup saucer sort of green. Big bunker on the right-hand side. It's actually a better spot in that front right bunker, unless the pin is close to you. It's a better spot there than it is missing on some of these slopes over to the left. You can see that the usable part of the green is not nearly the entire green. The shades of color of the grass there show you where the grain is growing. The darker grass, it's growing into you. The shinier grass, it's growing away from you. So everything from the left-hand side, from 9 o'clock on your clock all the way around to 3 o'clock, is straight down grain on all back edges of that green. This is a really tough green to hit.
You aren't lying there, Rolf. And you go from 15 to 16, which played as the second hardest hole on the entire course, 2014 U.S. Open. The reason was, you can see that the narrowest part of that fairway where those players are sort of convened is where the players will be landing their ball most. If you want to lay up short of those bunkers, you're going to have to hit it between 260 and 300. You want to go beyond the bunkers, that's about a 330, 325 carry. And lucky enough to find your ball in the short grass, then you can see just how difficult it is to find this putting surface, just protected on all sides by the rugged natural areas here, the bunkers, and of course the steep runoffs. You can see that shiny part on the back, sort of 3 or 4 paces of that green, that is running directly away from players coming from the fairway into that back bunker. Certainly a lot of danger here. And at 530, it's no easy task.
17th hole is such a big part of the lore and the history of the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. It seems like every time there's a U.S. Open here, and there's been 3, this 17th is a pivotal hole. It's a par 3, typically plays just over 200 yards. Doesn't look like there are a whole lot of issues on this hole, but we have seen a number of putts that we would have thought were putts that a player was going to make, a top player, that were missed. I think back of Tiger Woods, missed a couple of putts here in two of the 3 U.S. Opens that could have got him into a position literally to win this thing. A very deep yawning bunker over on the left-hand side there. It'll play a little bit longer than 15, just over 200 yards, but something always seems to happen in the U.S. Open at the 17th.
And then trying to close things out on Sunday, somebody will be up on this tee box trying to just frame a tee shot, get it in the short grass. See that drone swivel around. It gives you a great angle here. And from that teeing ground up into the fairway is a slightly uphill tee shot. Most of the landing area is not available to see for the player, so this is where your notes come in, and you can use the grandstands and the clubhouse in the background to sort of frame the landing area that players want to see this ball end up. And if they are able to do that, and we saw Payne Stewart had a difficult time doing it, Michael Campbell had a difficult time finding the fairway coming home, and I'm sure once they are able to find that fairway, you can find it a little bit easier to hit this difficult green.
How about that build out on the 18th? That's what I was talking about, when you get the feel of the U.S. Open